For 6 centuries, the Ottoman Empire fought wars against kings, sultans, crusaders, and rising European powers. They conquered lands, lost lands, rebuilt borders, and through it all, they never went bankrupt. The secret to their survival wasn't just military skill, it was money. They learned to turn war into finance. The Ottomans began as a small frontier state in northwest Anatolia under Osman, a leader with a few thousand riders. Early victories weren't just military, they were financial. Every new territory meant taxes, crops, and resources. By the 1350s, they controlled key trade routes between Europe and Asia. Every merchant passed through Ottoman tolls. The Timar system was genius. Instead of paying soldiers in cash, the state gave them land rights. Each soldier funded himself, maintaining his horse, weapons, and armor. Warfare didn't drain the treasury. Europe paid knights up front. Ottoman soldiers were already invested in keeping villages stable. The Janissaries were the empire's elite infantry. They were recruited through the devshirme system from Christian villages. Converted to Islam and trained from youth, they owed loyalty only to the Sultan. This system allowed the empire to gain elite soldiers without paying the high cost of raising them from birth. Combined with the Timar cavalry, the Janissaries created a self-financing, low-cost, professional army. Every conquest strengthened the next campaign. New taxes, trade routes, and resources flowed into the treasury. European kingdoms might return home poorer after war. The Ottomans often came back richer. State monopolies on salt, coffee, and other goods provided predictable income for the empire. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire avoided borrowing. Wars were funded by taxes, trade tolls, and monopolies. But by the 1600s and 1700s, the world changed. Europe industrialized, trade moved overseas, and the Timar system began to decay. Local tax holders abused their authority, and the central government lost control. The Janissaries also changed. Over time, they gained wealth and political power. They were no longer just soldiers. Eventually, they became a force the state could barely control. Reforms were resisted, and modernization slowed. When the empire finally tried to build modern European-style armies, one problem appeared immediately. Those armies required cash. Lots of it. For centuries, the Ottomans had avoided debt, but now they had no choice. They began borrowing heavily from European banks. Loans turned into dependence. In 1881, the empire was forced to hand parts of its finances to an international commission run by European powers. The empire that once controlled trade routes now had its own treasury monitored by outsiders. It was the end of centuries of financial independence. Modern parallels exist today. Outsourcing military costs, controlling trade choke points, state monopolies, and national debt. The uniforms change, but the financial logic of power remains the same. And the story leaves us with a powerful lesson. Empires rarely collapse because they lose battles. They collapse when their economic systems stop working. For more than 6 centuries, the Ottoman Empire achieved something extraordinary. It built a system where war could sustain itself, where soldiers funded their service, and where trade flowing through its lands fueled the state. This financial discipline allowed the empire to survive crises that destroyed many other powers. But history eventually changed the rules. Trade routes shifted, expansion slowed, and debt began replacing the systems that made the empire strong. And when that balance broke, the empire that had endured for centuries began to fade.